All right, so those of you who have been reading the Gospel according to Mark off and on throughout this year, which is all of you, did you notice Mark's favorite word, I think 4 times, maybe 5 times in this reading? What? Immediately. Mark loves the word immediately. I don't know why, but it always shows up all over the place. And so like 3 or 4, maybe 5 times in this little passage, it shows up immediately, shows up immediately, immediately, power, she was healed.
I think that just means before you get distracted by something else.
It could be, but it's a word, it's unique to Mark's gospel. He uses immediately dozens and dozens of times. Maybe. I don't know. Well, we'll find out about John Mark someday. All right, so that's there. There's another thing about today's reading that's characteristic of Mark. Did you catch that? This is another Mark and sandwich. It's another Mark and sandwich. We start out with the story. Jairus is in the story talking to Jesus. All of a sudden, the woman's in the story, and then we're back to Jairus. Now, one commentator I was engaged with this past week was very insistent this is not a Mark and sandwich, that the 2 stories are not really connected the way the other Mark and sandwich stories are connected. And I disagreed. We had an argument. We had an argument all week. Me and this guy. I don't know if he knows, but that's okay. We had an argument all week, and I still see it as a Mark and sandwich, because what do the woman and Jairus share? What's that? Faith in Jesus. What else do they share? Need, right? Desperation. They're in a bad place. My daughter's at the verge of death, and then he hears she died. All right, so like all hope is gone. This woman, unnamed, unknown, right? Notice what it says. For 12 years, a flow of blood, seen many physicians. The average person in the first century did not see any physicians because it takes money. It took a lot of money. So she saw so many physicians in 12 years that it took all her money, everything she had to live is the literal translation. All her money was gone. She was now completely impoverished. There's no Medicare, there's no Medicaid, there's no emergency fund. She's now destitute after 12 years of exhausting everything she had. So she was someone who was, like Jairus, a stand-up person in the community, now is reduced to nothing, to begging because of this. She's desperate. So we have these 2 desperate people, and they hear about Jesus and they come to him. Right? And in the middle of Jesus helping the important person, Jairus, right? This woman comes and touches his cloak in the middle of the crowd, just bustling around through the, all I can think about is the, my second manager at General Electric. I had 2 when I was at the meter business, and my second manager at General Electric, he was from Omaha, and he was a very laid back kind of guy. And I remember the first time he went to Korea, and we're in the airport at Korea, and people are just mobbing the counter, and he's like, "Why aren't they making a line?" And they'll just everywhere he went, there's a counter. And we saw the same thing in China too. So it was just a different kind of social behavior. And in a crowd with people crowding around you, how are you going to know who touches you or who's next or what the order is or anything? I mean, just this people everywhere. And this is Jesus. Jesus is drawing these crowds, these people all around him. They're walking through the narrow streets of the village, and they're just crushing on in. And this woman is in the midst of that, and she says, "If I just touch him." Now, so she demonstrates something right there. What does she demonstrate? Faith. She has faith. She trusts that Jesus will help. Jairus comes because he's heard good things. Jesus can do these things, and so he's kind of not emotional, kind of, it's rational. It's sort of like, okay, he can help me. She's not. She's just at a place where she's like, okay. And she says, oh, and if I just touch him, I don't even talk to him, just touch him. Now, what do we do here each Sunday? We reach out our hand and we just touch him. This is my body. This is like the woman. This is my body. If I just touch him. Right? So there she is. That's her exercise of faith. It's like prayer. I don't even need to know. I don't even need to know that notice I'm there, that anything's going on. I believe, and this is good. This is true. That's the woman. Right? And she's healed. And then Jesus, her life is restored. And then we have Jairus, right? Jairus comes and says, well, Jesus says, don't fear, just believe. Like the woman, don't fear, just believe. So Jairus has just seen all this. It has to amplify whatever he's heard. And he says, all right, I'm going. He doesn't say anything after that. He just goes. He's like, can you imagine? He's probably kind of in a stupor, just like in complete amazement. And he's following Jesus, and he and his wife and the 3 disciples and Jesus go in this little room. And even though he's a ruler of the synagogue, and that's not the person in charge of the synagogue, but kind of like an elder, he's like an important person. He's like a teacher of the law in that town. Here he comes, and he comes just with them. And Jesus, the same thing, right? Except this time is a little different. This time he said, right? Jesus said to him, what did Jesus say to him? All right, lost my train of thought here. What did Jesus say to Jairus? Don't fear, believe, right? Believe, do not fear. And so that's what we assume happened after that. But again, there's the power of belief. It's not even prayer. It's that prayer that is unutterable. Jairus couldn't even ask for anything at this point. He had no words. And yet that need, that request wells up in him and is known to Jesus, and Jesus acts. And this little girl who had died now comes back to life. Not resurrected, but comes back to life. Jesus pulls her out of death. Again, it's just that simple request. It's the prayer. When we pray, we're talking to Jesus. Whether it's for healing faith or saving power, we're talking to Jesus, the one who has that and can do that. And we pray even though some of the things we pray for aren't going to happen. But he sticks with us. We're in conversation with Jesus. And we stick with him because we know he's going to do the right thing for us. Even if sometime that leaves us kind of still hurting a little bit. But not in this case. Not in this case.